For years, I've told clients there are two kinds of variations in handmade surfaces. One is born of the process, layering and overlaid movements of the artisan's hand that yield that cloudiness, or say the repeated burnishing that builds depth in a mirror like finish.
Your work has always held me, restoring old buildings, not the palaces or the forts, but the modest bungalows, the guest houses, the odd hunting rest house you mentioned. You write about them with such color, or maybe I am simply drawn to stories that arrive half finished.
When I asked about Cody plasters, he pushed the subject aside, preferring to speak of the cements and additives he started selling for the first time in these villages. From his view, that is progress. He has adapted. He sees value in the wonderful new magical materials he has at hand. I get it. In some ways, that too is perhaps the mark of a good artisan.
Your Che Bara story made me laugh, not at the artisans, who sound more alive than any engineer I know, but at you, standing in the corner, pretending not to belong. When the truth is, you're kneading yourself into those walls as much as they are. You'll deny it, of course, but a part of you will remain there. A pink layer under someone else's paint.
There are also two kinds of clients. Those who look at a lovely lime plastered wall and call the variations cloudy, and then there are those that call it patchy.
Every day I remind my team, this building is not an unmoving, flawless idea captured on 56 sheets of paper. There will be changes, adjustments, compromises, and unexpected victories. What matters is that they feel in control, and for that I'm grateful. Dearest A, I'm writing with questions and curiosities. It's been almost 2 years since we met, and I'm gently holding you to your promise of letters. Bengaluru has settled into those empty weeks of February. These Tebubia's pink bursts have fallen in heaps of browning litter. That honge mara is only just sprouting green. I already miss the cool days of December. The sun feels harsher now, and sitting on this park bench no longer seems like a sustainable ritual. I write for two rather selfish reasons, A. One, how could I forget how neatly you weave your words? I don't have a book in my hands at the moment, and I remember our deal from 2 years ago. And two, I've run into some trouble with a wall. We have been working on a rather large project, a residence, one of those where I had to sign an NDA. I can't tell you who it is. Andre namannavar kade uru, if you know what I mean. We began the project last December, mostly interiors, and our clients were delighted to discover lime plasters. It stirred up a memory of their old Singanallur home, where they had a polished lime plastered wall they called Gaju Gode. We seized the opportunity, Kano. The house is a quiet play of reclaimed wood and lime, simple lines, gentle spaces, a simmered down, minimal courtyard home. It has come out quite well, Gota. Apart from those few tiny mistakes that you can't take your eyes off of, But I'd love for you to visit someday. We work with several lime plaster teams in Bangalore. The one who did this job has worked with us before, and his surfaces are usually impeccable. And he has done quite a commendable job here. Yet, one wall in the courtyard has developed a network of fragile hairline cracks. Thin, delicate, unexpectedly beautiful, like the veins of a dried leaf. Of course, I cannot tell my clients how these fissures quietly move me. The clients adore the rest of the house, but these barely visible marks seem to catch their eye. They can't seem to accept it. The process followed here was identical to the rest. Same base plaster, same mechanical key, same lime aggregate mix proportions, same wetting, every step I can think of. The team and I are confused, Kano. Do you know what else I should look for or ask to understand why this has happened? I can't take the ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಒಂದೊಂದ್ಸಲ ಈ ಥರ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. If anyone speaks lime, it's you, A. I have a vague feeling you'll enjoy replying to this letter. Perhaps it is exactly the right bait to begin our correspondence. What? I hit two birds with one stone? Who? Nana. Illappa. I am no crook. With anticipation, S.
Dear S, your letter surprised me. Truly. I'm not sure if you're one to read into coincidences for more than what they're worth. But oddly enough, a wall of Irish plaster we just polished in the Haveli I'm working on developed the same fine cracking. Well, perhaps it's not so odd. Hairline cracks do appear from time to time. But then, what you said about liking them, that struck a chord in me. After my clients left, worried about the cracks, I stayed behind and traced the finest fissures with my fingers. My hands reflected in the white of the fresh lime. The marks made the plaster feel almost alive, as if it had something to say, a sort of quiet dissent, maybe with me, or with the clients, who's to judge? How do you speak of the aesthetics of handcrafted finishes as? For years, I've told clients there are two kinds of variations in handmade surfaces. One is born of the process, layering and overlaid movements of the artisan's hand that yield that cloudiness, or say the repeated burnishing that builds depth in a mirror-like finish. Subtle color shifts from the uneven ways that lime carbonates. And the other is intentional. It comes directly from the hand. The way a surface was polished, the lingering line that maps a movement of a wayward stroke of the hand. Both threads tell the story of how the wall came together. I don't know if one is of the bad kind and the other of the good kind. I prefer a story where one thread doesn't overpower the other. Sometimes I wonder even if I should be talking about this and instead just show a wall to the clients and ask it for what it is. Do you like this? Ashte. There are also two kinds of clients. Those who look at a lovely lime plastered wall and call the variations cloudy, and then there are those that call it patchy. That's that. Now ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಅಷ್ಟೇ. Coming to your cracks. It is late February and summer is eagerly rushing in. The air is dry. And if the other walls are holding up, the teams must be managing the moisture very well. And the mix seems sound. Was this the east or north wall that cracked? Sometimes the low southern and western sun warms up the top surface. So even a well watered vertical surface loses moisture at the exposed top. In glossy finishes, the compacted surface can trap water below. The inner layers stay swollen while the surface shrinks. And that mismatch ripples out as hairline cracks. They're mostly harmless if you can't feel them, but they do show strongly when the surface is wet. The fissures also absorb more water, so they remain faintly visible even on humid days. With what you've told me, that's my best guess. I'm here in Morba. It's a few hours from Mandori. I'm working on a small haveli they're converting into a shared guest house. It feels oddly out of place. It was perhaps a hunting rest house once, or perhaps I'm just romanticizing. Either ways, it's a lovely, isolated place in an arid stretch. Yes, the winds are dry and sharp. ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಚಪಾತಿಗೂ ಹಪ್ಳಕ್ಕೂ ಇರೋದು 2 ನಿಮಿಷದ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ. I've had to seal every opening to trap moisture for the lime plasters. Otherwise, it dries out in an hour. The very same wind makes me miss Bangalore. Or, well, perhaps its edges. The cool breeze, open plains, rocky outcrops, scrub forests. So many worlds folded into one. The lands of S. I'm so glad you wrote about the cracks. I'm glad you wrote to me. Coffee aita? Hey.
Dear A, I had to look up Morba. It looks wild and beautiful. Can I confess something? I wandered across it on Google Earth, panning slowly over the terrain, hoping to stumble upon this Haveli you spoke of. I didn't find it, of course. Nija helo, yellidiya? Your work has always held me, restoring old buildings, not the palaces or the forts, but the modest bungalows, the guest houses, the odd hunting rest house you mentioned. You write about them with such color, or maybe I am simply drawn to stories that arrive half finished. What are you doing with this one? Have you gotten the mortar and the finish analyzed? Can you trace where all the materials come from? Who are you working with? Local artisans, ah? How do you recreate the lime mixes? I have far too many questions, and I know I cannot press you to answer them all. I do have something important to ask you, though. Our design has been chosen for the Writers' Pavilion at the Kolavelli Literature Festival. It will rise on the beach, a vast 2,600 square feet structure. Some parts of it will hold conversations and gatherings, but the heart of it will be an open space showing manuscripts. Kuvempu, Dara Bendre, and Shivram Karantru are some of the names I recognized immediately on the list. My team's done some wonderful work, you know. Our design is stitched together with reclaimed wood from ships, fabric woven from rain-fed cotton, and a restless roof of many attics tiled with Mangalore tiles. At the center stands a curved wall, 12 feet high and 32 feet long. And on it will be mounted the framed manuscripts. And I want that wall to hold the brightest lime polished plaster this region has ever seen. Picture it, A. fragile sheets of paper, yellowed by time, enclosed in aged wood and glass, and all of it glowing against a cloudy surface that is subtly reflective. Old things that refuse to grow old. Isn't that a beautiful conversation? Would you take this on? The challenge is steep. We have only 3 weeks to raise the whole pavilion, and we will have only 4 days for the lime plaster. It can be done, I think, but we will have no margin. The wall is the centerpiece. I must know it is in steady hands. The wall itself will be of sun-dried adobes, with earth plaster already layered as the base. We will keep the joints as thin as we can. To do this, we have struck a deal with a clay block maker to leave his extruded bricks unfired, drying them in the sun, and to add coarser aggregates to the mix. That should help with the shrinkage, Alva. So tell me, A, will you do this? And why does it feel as though I am always tempting you with bait? Baro, CTR masala dosai kodistini. S.
Dearest S, I cannot wait to get to the end of this letter. And that says something already. But you have asked questions, and questions sometimes need answers. You've jumped right into the dilemma of every person working with old buildings. Tell me this, S. Do you consider old buildings as things from the past that need to be preserved? Or do you see them as witnesses that have held and will hold more stories in life? The building itself is going to be a private property. So this time, I really didn't need to recreate in exactitude the plasters as they were. Having said that, I still need to respect the fact that this was a 200-year-old something building. When it comes to holding on to that identity, isn't it more than just specification? Providing a 12 mm lime plaster consisting of 3 layers of lime plaster not exceeding 6 mm per layer floated to a smooth mirror-like polish without the use of sealants or polishes, including cost of materials application and hire and operation of required machinery. Come on, I could do this with industrial lime, powdered lime mixed with manufactured sand and crushed marble powder, pre-mixed dry and wet mixed on site and finish. Or I could use a motorized thresher to grind lime and brick powder for 6 hours and 12 hours and get my 2 mixes of 2 base coats. The ability to see, feel, and witness the effort of a lime kiln, the grinding and the process itself is the making of the building. You know, the pride of the families would be unmatched. I can almost hear them telling their guests about it every time they visit. So I'm taking the second route, of course. My artisans call it the Chebara mix. 6 hours of crushing for the base plasters, 12 hours of crushing for the fine base plaster. Then the final coat of arayush. As the grinding stone passes over the bricks and mixes in with the lime, it gives rise to the most gentle pink. A pink so familiar for some of my artisans that every time we make a new mix, they go off into stories of their youth, of making each other's floors and walls, the talk, the scandal, and the texture of life of the days gone by. I stand, just trying to be invisible in plain sight. There is something being built here too, apart from the hardening of lime. There are other bonds being reestablished. It is all this and more that breathes life into a building, that makes it someone's story to hold on to, rather than just a shell that protects you from dust, wind, and rain. I'm really flattered that you would consider me for the pavilion. It really seems like a big deal. I would love to be involved. I already sat down with my artisans during dinner and spoke to them all about it. They seem excited. Motiji is even willing to spare his precious Araish mix for it. Have your team send over more details so I can work out the schedule with them. The timing works well. The team here is done with the base plasters in 2 weeks, and the base will need to rest and harden. We will then leave and arrive in Kodvalli in time for the application of finishes. I'm guessing Bangalore is already blessed with pre-monsoon showers. Here, I catch sight of lonely clouds drifting by, like lost sheep on a blue pasture. I ran below a shade of a passing cloud for almost a kilometer before I had to stop and catch a breath. Open landscapes barely move as you run past them. Looking forward to working with you on the pavilion together. A lonely cloud in the wind. A.
Dear A, I just stepped away from a day that seemed to have no end. Continuous calls, site coordination, checking earth walls for the cafe we are building. Every earth block, every trowel, every hand pressing mud into place. It feels sacred, you know. But the world just keeps on intruding. Our clients understand most of the time. Yet, they are tied between timelines. The opening of the cafe, deadlines for a commercial project. Everyone is rushing. Everyone wants it done yesterday. We all try to fit into this fast-moving world, and in the process, we are eating a little of each other alive. You mentioned clouds. I caught myself envying that kilometer you ran. I haven't run in years. Most days I am at my desk, watching deadlines storm through like trains that never stop. I want to bring in the slow grace of lime, of timber, of mud walls that hold the scent of rain. But the world insists on glass and speed, and I end up smuggling natural materials into our projects like a guilty secret. My team stands with me, fiercely, though I can see the strain in their shoulders. The way they hold up my stubbornness as if it were scaffolding for a larger purpose. My phone is always ringing with doubts, calls, budget updates from everyone. I want to take a break from making decisions, even if just for a second. Some evenings, I want to give in, to melt into the pace of things. But wouldn't everything collapse if I stopped resisting? So, I square my shoulders, hold the line, and pretend it doesn't cost me. We've just been awarded a project with the Karnataka Tourism Department. I can't express what this means for a studio like ours. It is everything. After years of scraping through, singed at the edges, to be entrusted with a public building feels like standing on a ledge with the wind finally at your back. This isn't just another project. It's a chance to carve into earth the proof that a small, stubborn practice like ours can shape something that belongs to everyone. My team feels it too. The pride, the exhaustion, the defiance. We've held on when it would have been easier to fold. And now, here it is. If there was some larger purpose, perhaps this is it. Your letter sits on my desk like a plaster mix, waiting to be turned. I read it once in daylight, once at night, and both times I felt your restraint pressing against the page, like you were holding back an entire monsoon behind a single crack in the wall. Your Che Bara story made me laugh, not at the artisans, who sound more alive than any engineer I know, but at you, standing in the corner, pretending not to belong. When the truth is, you're kneading yourself into those walls as much as they are. You'll deny it, of course, but a part of you will remain there. A pink layer under someone else's paint, waiting for more of your restraint. S. Dear A, everything is moving quickly now. I spent almost a week in Kolavalli watching the wall come up in Adobe and Earth Plaster. I had this feeling that cycle gapally someone would just slip in burnt bricks and cement if I wasn't there. Kolavalli's soil is rich and red, lateritic and perfect. I made a plaster matrix like the one from our workshop and caught myself leaning, as always, towards the richer mixes, the ones that crack, the ones that feel alive. It is like touching a touch-me-not, except slower, only for those who know how to breathe and stay with it. The samples were not merely cracked, they were cracking, becoming, learning their way. The team on site took their time to understand all this. I forget how much unlearning natural materials ask for. Madam, ನೀರ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಕರ್ಗೋಗುತ್ತಾ? ಕ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ಮಾಡೋದು? ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸಿಮೆಂಟೇ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಕ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ಏನು ಬೇಡ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂಗ್ತ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಮೇಡಮ್? ಮಣ್ಣು ಡ್ರೈ ಆಗಿದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಗಟ್ಟಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ತಿರ್ಗಾ ನೀರು ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ತಿರ್ಗಾ ಮೆತ್ತೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅವಾಗ ಶೆಟ್ರೆ ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಮನೆ ಮಧ್ಯ ಇರೋ ಗೋಡೆಗೆ 20 ಬಕೆಟ್ ನೀರು ಹಾಕ್ತಾರಾ? ಅದು ಸರಿನೇ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಮೇಡಮ್? Do you remember, A? This was what first got us talking 2 years ago. The two of us choosing the wrong mix because we wanted cracks. Not just the wrong mix, but the whole afternoon at Sabha in Bangalore, when the room around us had already emptied, but the both of us stayed behind, arguing over lime and clay as if no one else existed. 2 years ago now, and it still feels like yesterday. ನಿಂತರ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಇಷ್ಟ ನನಗೆ, cracked. And now you've picked up the habit of baiting me too. Why did you hold back the whole story of the final mix? It feels like you kept it from me on purpose. Tell me, who are you bringing? Which artisans? And what is this special Arayash mix you spoke of? I want to hear everything. The rains are no longer shy. The mango showers have arrived here. Raspuri stalls are already crowding the city. I keep wondering if Morba has slipped into mango season yet. Bring me some when you come, won't you? I'm counting down the weeks. And now the days. S.
Dearest S, all is well here, and preparations for Kolavali are gathering shape. Tools are set aside, materials collected, lodgings found. I still cannot decide if your questions spring from curiosity or from the urge to keep everything under control. But whichever it is, I quite value it. I did not withhold the story to tease you. It was simply too long, too full to fit into that last letter. Today I have the space, and probably even the quiet, to tell you. Araish is sometimes called Cody. It's really the pride of this region. You know how lime refines itself, softening and growing finer the longer it slakes? This is one of those plasters that asks for time. एक महीना तो रखना ही पड़ेगा, Moti ji says. A month at least. Not long ago, I found an old artisan. A man of 75, perhaps more. His voice was all gravelly and deep, the kind that commands attention and yet rests easy and comfortable on the ear. He lives about 45 kilometers from here in a small town, and he's running a cement shop now. When I asked about Cody plasters, he pushed the subject aside, preferring to speak of the cements and additives he started selling for the first time in these villages. From his view, that is progress. He has adapted. He sees value in the wonderful new magical materials he has at hand. I get it. In some ways, that too is perhaps the mark of a good artisan. It took time for him to understand why I had come. It took time for the past to return to him. At last, he led me to the back of his house, to a corner where an earthen vat lay buried in the ground. Inside, slaking lime. How old? I asked casually. He smiled at a loss. Ayush ki baat to nahi hai. That vat could finish an entire palace as. It holds the finest mix meant for the last and thinnest of coats. When someone comes asking, he takes what he needs, then feeds the vat again, mixing it all afresh. In this way, the lime never dies. It just only keeps growing finer. The ingredients: lime, fine marble dust, there's gugol resin from a thorny shrub, some cactus juice, jaggery, and a few things that I didn't quite catch. And here lies the wonder, S. The vat, he says, has lived for more than 3 generations, at the very least. Imagine the mix. A recipe wandering off course years after year, and yet he adjusts it and corrects it. And how? By taste. Literally. He dips in a finger, licks, and knows what to add. I marveled at how one remembers a taste so precisely across time. By the end of that evening, endless tea and buttermilk later, I think I understood. It's not about a fixed taste at all. It is an aesthetic of taste. Maga, you know how a good donne biryani never tastes the same twice. Yet, it's always itself. There's that balance, that feeling of rightness. And this is what guides him. As he spoke of lime refining itself, I remembered the day we met. That talk at Sabha in Bangalore. You speaking of clay and I of lime. As if we were carrying opposite ends of the same thread. 2 years have gone and we're still unspooling it. The last 2 years have changed how I see our craft. Not numbers, not formulas, but a relationship, a living bond with the material. Motiji tells me that in some families, these plaster mixes are given as wedding gifts. Imagine that. I'd love a recipe for walls as a dowry. And now, as he's agreed to give us this mix for the Kolavalli wall. Just 2 days ago, we went foraging for the ingredients to replenish the vat. It was a journey I will tell you properly about when we meet. The team I've called are my men from UP, steady hands that I've worked with for years. They will be with us in Kolavalli for the start of works on the finishes. S, your letters are leaving me breathless. Your life leaves me breathless. Looking forward to joining you and the team. Yours, A.
Dear A, I have read your letter again and again and again. Wonder, excitement, restlessness, gratitude. I felt all of it, all at once. You're right, Kano. We build buildings one brick at a time, one story at a time. And this story is already one I know I will relive many times over. So the rains have arrived here in full earnest. But our Kolavalli Pavilion is holding steady. Thank God our teams wisely finished the roof and the outside first. Everything is on track, give or take a day here or there. I no longer lose myself over these delays, mostly because I do not want my heart giving up on me anytime soon. I have too much to live for. When I watch this building take shape, I see timelines nested inside timelines. Few here understand what I mean. Months of weaving those rain fed cotton drapes, generations of practice behind the weaving, the long history of cotton itself, bred to survive droughts. All of that collapses into a tiny 7 days on a Gantt chart. And yet, both scales are real, no? Both coexist. The same with lime. The generations of slaking, lifetimes of learning how to plaster, a bond with the land that exists beyond time and space, all to be realized in 4 days. I am most glad you're coming, A. As we near the final days, I cannot imagine facing the nerves all alone and the endless questions without someone steady beside me. Every day I remind my team, this building is not an unmoving, flawless idea captured on 56 sheets of paper. There will be changes, adjustments, compromises, and unexpected victories. What matters is that they feel in control, and for that I'm grateful. They have been everything to me, really. I ramble. My thoughts are running in too many directions. There's too much to do, too little time. I doubt there will be room for more letters now. You will be here anyway in a few days. My fatigue fights with my excitement, but excitement always wins. I cannot wait to see you and your team. Please travel safe. You and your lime, me and my clay. That day, that first conversation should have warned us. In anticipation of the most alive part of this pavilion, Begaba, S.
Dear S, I had hoped to be on the road by now, and instead, I'm still here, pressed against the edge of chaos. The rains have refused to leave, the rains have refused to ease. Rivers swell as though they remember some ancient grievance. Trains are cancelled one after another, and the villages are suddenly full of people planting rice in mud-thick water. Our artisans are amongst them, laughing and shaking their heads at my frantic calls. The rice fields have already swallowed half the path to the main road. The men I was to bring, you know how much I rely on them. They've refused to leave. Not out of defiance, but because this season is just not negotiable. Planting waits for no one. They bent their heads when I asked them again, and I understood. Rice first, then walls. I'm sorry, yes. I'm so sorry. I see your plans, your carefully ordered days, and I feel I've thrown all of them into disarray. I heard troubling news too today. Water seeping into your pavilion site, pooling at the edges where the earth is still raw. The news read that the pavilion's roof had collected water and is now being redone. I hope it's just the exaggeration of the media, but it's going to keep me up tonight. If it's true, you must be standing on the edge of despair. This pavilion, your pavilion, the public face of your work, the quiet revolution of your studio's promise, all of it hangs in the balance, Alva. I know how much it means to you, how much of your soul is tethered to it. I see you, already stretched to hold everything steady. And I know my absence will make it waver. I hate that I cause and may cause your balance to falter. My artisans are stranded in their villages. The monsoons have pulled them back to the rice fields, and nothing will move them now. I accept it. I accept that they will not come, but I will. I'm searching for flights, praying there are still seats, and then the road to Kolavali. I'm praying that I can catch you in time. We won't let this go, S. We won't let this go. Even though I sense how thin your thread has become. Hold on. I'm on my way. Rushing. Yours. A. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That's about it. Thanks for so patiently sitting and listening to this really long podcast. On stage are Muthu and Alagesh. Alagesh is one of our master artisans. Muthu leads operations of Clears. And they're just finishing the final coats of lime plaster. And then there's Durgama and the rest of my team in the audience. Thank you.